Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z. I'm a clinical psychologist specializing in transgender care. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk to you, all of you older adults, and I want to share with you one of the biggest challenges that I think a lot of you face versus younger individuals, younger adults who are transitioning today. Now, I know that there are starting to become more and more older adults who are starting to transition, which I think is great. I think it's great in a sense that a lot of you who are older, by the way, when I say older, I'm referring to all adults. I would say probably age 40 and up. So it's great in that regard that a lot of you are starting to realize that there is ways that you can deal with gender dysphoria. There is a way out of it. There's a way to be more happy and more in touch with yourself. The transition options are becoming more and more accessible to a lot of folks, and the insurance is starting to cover more and more transition-related options. So for that reason, I think it's really great that people are becoming aware because they're putting themselves at an opportunity to actually do something about their life, to better their health, to better their current circumstances. And I think that's a good thing. Now, of course, with every demographic, there is going to be challenges. There's going to be also variability within the demographics. No two groups are going to be alike. And I am a very big speaker and educator in terms of educating the public that there is a very big demographic differences between individuals who are teenagers, even though I don't work with kids, but between very, very young kids versus young adults versus older adults versus even older adults. So demographically, for all those groups, transition and how you deal with dysphoria and also the challenges related to transition paths is going to be drastically different. This is one of the main reasons why I am completely against taking younger populations, even young adults, and generalizing the challenges they go through or certain elements of struggles that they anticipate and how it affects their transition, and maybe even some of the people's decision to detransition, and generalizing that to older adults. Very big differences, very big demographic, completely different circumstances. So today I want to speak about one of the biggest challenges that I see older adults tends to face, again, group 40 years and up, and why you tend to face one of those biggest struggles. I know that there, apart from this one biggest struggle that I'll be talking about, I know that there are a lot of other struggles out there. I'm fully aware of them. I know that a lot of you are fully aware of them. And I know that some of you may feel that the struggle that I'm going to describe may not feel like the most challenging struggle. It is, however, the most challenging one that I see consistently working with people who are 40 and up. A lot of the clients I work with are older adults. My clientele that I tend to work with individually tend to fall into category of, I would say, age maybe 25 and up. And majority of my clients are probably around age 35, 37, and all the way up to 70, 80 years old. So I have a lot of experience working with older adults, and because I don't work with kids and youngsters, I lack that experience, but I've seen a lot of challenges, and this seems to be the most common pattern. I know that a lot of you watching think that perhaps what I'm going to say is the most biggest challenge for people who are 40 and up who are struggling with gender dysphoria and decide to transition is going to be the effects hormone had on your body, your natal hormone had on your body throughout your time. For individuals who identify trans femme or who identify as trans feminine or as trans women, or even non-binary in a feminine end of spectrum, a lot of you may perhaps feel that it is the effect of testosterone that had on your body over a long period of time that is the biggest challenge, because once you get into feminizing hormones, it's going to be that much more difficult to attain physical results that you really want and physical results that you really seek. And that's for sure, certainly is a challenge. Definitely, undisputably, there is, I would say, a difference when somebody who hasn't even, well, I'm not going to talk about that, but for somebody who is maybe like age 18 and up and have only had effective puberty for X amount of years versus had an effective secondary sex characteristics over a prolonged period of time, there's definitely undisputably going to be changes and variations in those things. And that's definitely a challenge in of itself. But there is also another challenge, apart also from what a lot of people tend to think. A common one is that a lot of adults grew up in a time, in an era where there was no language for it, where there was no way to talk about it. There was no way for you to even know what's going on with you, for you to even understand that there's such thing as gender dysphoria existed, what was gender dysphoria, what classifies gender dysphoria, is that there are transition options, that people do transition. A lot of you didn't even have that within the scope of your sphere of awareness. And that's also certainly is a challenge, because when you live and exist in a time, there's no language for you to define and explain your experience. What happens then, there's no way for you to really conceptualize, for you to even really put into words what is going on with you, put into words the experience you're going through. And when you can't put it into words, when you can't understand it, then you can't really reach out and gravitate toward any viable solution. And as a result, a lot of you will and did actually live your life in this kind of, I call it almost like sleepwalking state, where you knew something was off, you didn't really know exactly what it was, you couldn't name it, but something just didn't feel right, you knew you didn't belong to your gender assigned at birth, but because again, no language, no accessibility, you were forced to live your life in your gender assigned at birth. Again, that is definitely a challenge. And yet there is one primary challenge that I would say is even bigger than those two challenges, bigger than growing up in a context where you didn't have language, words to define and explain your experience, as well as how long natal hormone had an effect on your body. Now, this biggest challenge is the one that I see consistently with adults who are 40 and up. And that challenge is when you are age 40 and up, that's, if you think about it, most people, well, maybe most in the past, I think people are less responsible today, to be honest. People usually start become self-sufficient and adulting around age 18, 20, 21, 22. That's around the time of age where a lot of people, at least in my experience, are starting to have their own job, or be starting to maybe move out from their parents, starting to pay for their own rent, starting to step into those adulthood responsibilities. So if you think about age 20 and up to 40 and up, depending where you're at in terms of your age group, that's 2 decades of accumulating life. That's 2 and even more decades for some of you accumulating and building what I call an ecosystem around you. This ecosystem, which is your life up to this point. This ecosystem, which is its own environment, is built around your gender assigned at birth. This ecosystem already has things in place based on your gender assigned at birth. It has maybe a relationship in place. Maybe it has long-term marriage in place. It may, for a lot of you, have children in place. For a lot of you, it has other relationships, friendships in place. It also has career placements in place. It also has a sense of going through life and navigating through life in place, where you tend to relate to life, where you tend to understand life in place. So what I'm trying to say is you have a very long period of time living your life in a gender assigned at birth and accumulating and building this whole fishbowl environment around you, within which everything exists and in which you exist and everything coexists around you. Now, of course, we can talk about how this coexistence is not built on full authenticity, because you were never fully comfortable with your gender, or never comfortable at all with your gender assigned at birth. Absolutely, 100%. But nonetheless, the ecosystem has been built. And nonetheless, you have a network, you have relationship, you have ways you relate, ways you tend to move along, you have ways you even relate to other people, woven in the fabric of that ecosystem. And this is the most challenging thing. The most challenging thing is to walk away from this ecosystem, or to recognize that this ecosystem, this life that you have built for yourself, even though it was built not a new authentic gender, is going to get one way or another, partially or completely disrupted if you start transition. This is what keeps a lot of you who are 40 and up, who have your ecosystem and already know and cognizant you have gender dysphoria and realize now that you've been struggling with gender dysphoria all of your life and want to transition, but afraid to move forward. This is what's keeping you and preventing you from moving forward. A lot of you might be telling yourself that the reason why you're not moving forward is because you feel that you'll never pass, because the natal hormone has done a number in you for many, many years. A lot of you may be telling yourself some other things. The reality is that this context, that ecosystem you built, there's the fear of disrupting it. There's the fear of destroying it. For some people, for some adults, it's not like that. Some adults have not accumulated this ecosystem because they've been living a solo life, so there's less to lose. For a lot of you, it feels like it's a lot to lose, even though you know you have an opportunity to rebuild it. This is terrifying for us as human beings when we're 40 and up and we have built. I know this because I'm 41 years old. I know this because I have also built a life for myself. And if somebody were to come in and say that you have to do something that will drastically disrupt and potentially completely wipe out life you built up to this point, I would be terrified. I would be scared shitless to move forward, even though I would know that moving forward is overall a good thing for me. And the reason why it's so difficult for a lot of you to move forward, because even though you know overall it'll be a good thing for you, you haven't experienced that good thing yet. That good thing is not here yet. It's an idea, it's a concept, it's not tangible yet, it's not something that you actually have felt yet. This is the biggest thing that separates young adults and even youngsters from people who are 40 and up, the creation of life. And what happens is two things for people when they reach age 40 and up and they want to transition and they're looking at their life. Two things tend to happen in my experience. Number one, what happens to a lot of you is that you're looking at this life and you're basically telling yourself, what's the point? I'm 40, 45, 50, 60, 70, 80. What's the point? Why disrupt all of this? What's the point? I coped long enough. I'll just continue to cope. I can do it. Okay, I know a lot of you are telling yourself this because I hear this again and again and again and again from people who come and start working with me. I hear this. This is very, very common. And I understand exactly where it's coming from. And one of the biggest reasons is because you don't even know what it's going to be like once you start living your life. Second thing that happens is the opposite of that, interestingly. Because you lived 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, 70 years, a lot of you, even though you build ecosystem, are actually doing opposite of the first group. What you're doing is you're telling yourself this: shit, life is too short. I can't believe I lived all these years, all these decades, without really enjoying my life, without really embracing who I am. This is my time. It's time for me to really live up to who I am. It's time for me to really finally do something about it and to show up for myself, to pick me over everybody else, to pick myself over everybody else. So isn't it interesting? Some of you hold on to an ecosystem that you know is not working for you, but because there's aversion to loss, you're afraid to lose it because you see value in it. The value that you see in it oftentimes is just the time you put into it. It's almost like sweat equity. Do you know the term sweat equity? It's usually a business term. That means, all of the, it's like, all of those videos and content that I keep producing, that's the sweat equity I'm putting into my business. That's the equity, that's the work and energy I'm putting into my business. And of course, today, if somebody said, delete your whole YouTube channel, I'd be horrified because, oh my God, it's all this energy and work and effort I put into it. Same thing for you. You're looking at your ecosystem and you're saying, wait a second, there's sweat equities that I invested in it. A lot of energy went into creating this ecosystem, even if it's not perfect. It's still able to function. So why would I want to disrupt it? So there's loss aversion for the first group, where you want to hold on to this ecosystem. For the second group, it's the opposite. You now have loss aversion to not being able to live up your full potential. You almost have this fear of not being able to actualize yourself in this life. Two groups of people, two very different responses. But this is the biggest challenge I see with adults 40 and up. It's the ecosystem, it's the environment, it's the system, it's the mothership, whatever you want to call it, that you built around yourself that you're afraid to abandon. You're sitting on this mothership and you're telling yourself that, this is sustainable, this mothership is going to make you happy, things are going to somehow dramatically change. And the reality is that they won't, because you're the one who have to take change. You have to demand to live a better life for yourself, not just dream about it. And the way to demand about it is to change it. It's to take that mothership and shake it up. But a lot of you, again, are risk averse. So apart from, there are also this other huge challenges that I don't want to minimize or disregard: how long hormones had effect on the body, whether people have financial capacity to transition, whether people have resources to transition, the place of the world you live in, whether it's safe or not. Lots of other things, absolutely there. Not trying to minimize it, but by far and large, people who are age 40 and up, this is the biggest challenge versus younger individuals. Is this ecosystem? Is this, this is the life that I built and I want to hold on to it, even though this life that I built is no longer serves me, because again, risk averse, right? Again, it's this fear of letting go and not knowing how things are going to pan out. So comment below, let me know, because I know a lot of you did let go of mothership. I know a lot of you have. So share with those fellow people who are reading the comments who have not left mothership. Share, what did you experience? Did your life get better as a result of it? Did you build a brand new mothership for yourself? And for those of you who are risk averse, tell me, what are you holding on to? I know that a lot of you are going to say, I'm holding on because I don't want to disrupt my family. I don't want to lose my family. I don't want my kids to there's like so many personal things that just pains me to hear. And all I hear when I hear those things, to be honest with all of you, what I hear is how you are abandoning yourself. When is the time when we all stop abandoning ourselves? When is the time when all of you are going to stop abandoning yourself and nurture and parent and take care of yourself? So comment below, let me know, what do you think is the biggest challenges that adults versus youngsters tend to face? Again, two very big different demographically groups. Pet peeve of mine when people are comparing younger group to older adults, because two different lives lived completely in a different context, different challenges that people face that are need to be taken into consideration. So comment below, let me know. Love reading all of your comments, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.